Hello, everybody, and welcome to SOG Tonight. We are back again this week. This is our second week in a row doing SOG Tonight after not doing one for months. And once again, we're going to be talking about, as I had the banner up when you guys first went live, you saw we'll be talking Obi-Wan, the Obi Wan Kenobi limited series that is, of course, streaming now on Disney Plus. So we will be discussing that. Just like last week, I cannot do this by myself. I mean, I could, but it wouldn't be as fun. So I am going to bring in 1/3 of the Vigilante 1939. Also, his TikTok movie review. I don't know the name of the show. He could tell you when he comes on. But we have that as well. He's all over the place. And as you guys all know him well, Mr. Nikko Caruso. Nikko!
My man, happy to be back. Yes, I am all over the place. Which, yeah, no, I'm accessible. Come,
You are.
Come talk to me once again, dude. Thank you so much for having me. Last week was an absolute blast. We finally talked Star Wars, and I'm excited we get to do it 2, 3, 4 more times, and hopefully more in the future. Good to be back.
Yes. So last week, episode 3 of Obi-Wan was like crazy, right? I think I said to many people it was probably one of the top 5 Star Wars TV show television episode for me.
Easily.
Right?
Easily.
Right. I mean, obviously there's
firmly
Mandalorian episodes and the Luke coming back was fantastic as well. So we've had plenty of Clone Wars. I've had plenty of great episodes in animation, but that one was just something we've been waiting how many years for to see?
Long time, man.
Yeah, and we finally got it. So the bar was raised with that episode, very, very high, I thought. And I kept waiting. Obviously, we knew the next episode probably would not be that, right? We knew.
Sure.
But I think we kind of just were like, all right, where is it going to fall after we see it? And we had kind of texted a little bit earlier today about a little bit of our feelings on the show. And I normally lead with mine, but you're my guest. So I'm going to let you lead with your feelings. Let's really quickly, the synopsis of this episode was, after what happened to Obi-Wan, we see him obviously in pain. They're wheeling him in on the stretcher, the floaty stretcher thing, whatever it is. I don't know what it's called technically. He goes in the back of the tank. And then there's a cool little scene where they have those like flashbacks where you see like the side by sides with him and Darth Vader, right? You have both of them in back to tanks showing their scars and their wounds, which I thought artistically was fantastic. Right. And then, of course, it picks up after that with the Leia. Reva took Leia, obviously, and she's interrogating her on the planet of Nur, which is a moon of Mustafar, which I thought was pretty cool because Mustafar is all volcanic and this is all water.
Yeah, cool. It's really cool.
So, like, it was a very cool juxtaposition with both the different kinds of planet and the kind of moon it has. I think it's weird that all these moons in Star Wars are inhabitable, but I digress.
Yeah, moons. It's crazy.
I digress. And then the show kind of just picks up from there, right? A lot of what happens from that point on, we'll talk about going forward. I just wanted to set up what exactly happened in the show and where we leave off or where we begin. So really quickly, give your take on this episode and let everyone know what you thought of it.
Yeah, so you actually, I'm really glad you set up the idea of expectations, because there are sometimes properties or episodes of TV that are just like they're almost impossible to carry on from. Right. It's really hard to maintain the same level. But is it too much to ask to maintain a little bit of the same? And I'm gonna sound like have you ever tried to like? I always hate. There's nothing worse than on a podcast. You've done it forever, so you'll know what I mean. Hopefully, you can relate. There's nothing worse than when you're reviewing someone and like you're not in love with it, but you don't hate it either. Because when you try to explain it, you always start teetering more negative, and then like the positives don't feel as real. So here's all I'll say, because we're gonna get into a lot of specifics as we keep going. It was not great, nor did I hate it. But to me, while it was enjoyable and had some cool moments, it felt once again like we had this really laser focused episode last week in terms of direction. And this one we're back to like all over the place with sprinkled in moments again. It's weird. It's like we got the big one and then we're going backwards in the formula,
Right.
which we said last week, our fear was that this was a show they reverse engineered, right? Let's write it around these two big Vader Obi-Wan moments. This episode almost confirms it. Also being a whopping 30 minutes with credits, being very, very brief compared to the other ones. So this one, yeah, it was a significant step down for me. While great moments, it is in the conversation for me of being the weakest of the series so far. My humble opinion. It rivals episode 1 for that, in my opinion. I
think in terms of building on the story, I kind of agree with you there. I agree with that kind of because it is all over the place. We're getting different parts of a story. It's not as, like you said, focused and streamlined as we got last week and what was leading up to there. It is a little bit all over the place, a little bit jagged from that point of view. Yeah, I agree with that. I would not argue that at all. What I did love though, but for me, this was I like to say it's a very Star Wars episode, right? You have all of the elements that make a Star Wars. You have gunfights, you have lightsabers, you have ships in this one, you have ship battles, like you have all of the elements that little 5-6-year-old me, the first time I saw Star Wars, what brought me to it so much was that stuff, because at that age story is like it's secondary, like you just want you want to see the cool stuff. So for me, that's what this episode was on a whole. I really had fun with it. That's what I'll say. It was
fun moments for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun. We're seeing Obi-Wan kind of become him again. Ben's kind of starting to teeter back to the Obi-Wan side of things. You see him use the Force a little bit stronger in this one. His lightsaber skills look a little sharper, obviously, in this one. So we're seeing that part of him, which had to happen, obviously. It's only 6 episodes. And I think to the larger point, that's what I wanted to bring up. I think the 6th episode is really restrictive as to how much they can do.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to squeeze a lot in. And when you do that, that is when narrative suffers, because you have to check off so many boxes. And it's just really hard to do.
This one feels just, and then I'll have you keep going. This one just feels it just feels very quick. Like it felt like really fast. The stakes after 3 are really high because we have an injured Obi-Wan and then Leia in distress again. While I'm going to give my opinion on having to save Leia a second time, I'm going to give my opinion on that later. But we quickly get him. You're right. The episode opens so artistically with them going back and forth. And I won't lie. I'll be honest, because I'm an honest fanboy. A little bit of expectation kicked in because I'm like, oh, this is like, oh, they just faced off. The best time to like build on that and not just like flashbacks, but show this weird duality is right now. And then like he's quickly out of the back to tank. He's fine. We talked to O'Shea Jackson for 3 minutes and he's like, all right, fine, we'll help. Then we're already on the base. And then I'm like, wow. And I would argue that I'm confused where the same urgency for Vader was on his own moon, but we'll get into that later. It just felt like fast. And the runtime is so awkward to me. And I know, listen, I'm a big supporter of the Disney Star Wars era. So I hate when people are like, Star Wars fans hate Star Wars when they critique something. No, that's not true. I love Star Wars. It's just like, is it wrong to expect the same quality of The Mandalorian? And is it wrong to expect, some nice pickup after last week? It's just felt as enjoyable as it was. Like the stuff around the cool. I agree. The lightsaber stuff, like the Obi-Wan stuff was so prequel-esque. Like the sneaking around and the lightsabers and the deflecting. Like I was all in for that. I also thought that the cinematography in this one was very good, ironically. For me not thinking it was that great. I thought it looked great, the whole lightsaber in the hallways, but it just felt like you said, in this one, they were like, almost like, I hate to call it like a setup episode, but hey, all right, we got to go get Leia real quick, and we got to like let Ewan be a Jedi again so that he's ready in the last two. And don't worry, we could do it in like 30 minutes. Because it felt like, I was joking with a friend of mine last night. I'm like, it wasn't bad. It just felt like an episode of like NCIS. It was like your half-hour TV drama of the week trying to save the little hostage, which I know is ignorant, but I was just being facetious. So yeah, it just felt fast. Like, whoa, high stakes, and then it's one of those where like, all right, now we solved all those, but now we set up a new conflict where Vader's now going to go after. It was like this weird, really quick, like, I could have argued that like we didn't need this one, which I hate saying that. But I could argue that like you could have trimmed this even smaller and like opened up episode 5 with something like this if we're going to move this fast.
I feel like I said, I feel like every episode, every series has an episode like this during this run. Like there's always that one episode you're kind of like, I really didn't need that one. It was okay, but I feel like that's what this one was for it. But because we're only getting 6 of them, that's kind of
it's
letdown, right? Like you're kind of like, crap. I wanted to see something more. I wanted to see a little bit more Vader. Obviously, we just saw him in the last one, so you wanted to see a little bit more.
Yeah.
What we did get of him was pretty badass. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, it was great. He's great.
Right, but it's a very small sample. This one, like I said, it was fun. You're right, though. The beats are so quick. Like everything happens so quick because it has to, because they don't have time.
They don't have time
to do it. And that's the problem with the 6 episode format. You did mention Osei Jackson's character. His name is Roken. He's part of the next thing I really wanted to get into and talk about is something called the Path Network.
Yeah. This is cool.
Yeah, so this is something that kind of was teased the last episode, and then it finally really got the name this one because Reva in this episode is trying to find out where all of the Path Network, other parts of the Path Network exist. And basically the Path Network is an underground railroad for the Jedi, right? After the Purge, they're in hiding, and the Path Network basically helps the Jedi move around and hides them and keeps them safe so the Empire can't find them. And as you mentioned, we meet Roken, who it was weird when I first saw him. I'm like, oh, that's O'Shea. Like I knew he was in the show, and I kept waiting to see him. And
it's the cameo, or I hate to say cameos. The other castings on this show, like it's funny how, not in a bad way, but they're like, it's just the people, and it's nothing against them. I just can't explain it. They're like distracting for a sec, because I'm like I love Straight Outta Compton.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite movies of the last decade, right? So like I just see him as Ice Cube's son because he also played Ice Cube so perfectly. I know he's his son. So when he first came on, I was like, Cube. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm watching Star Wars. Oh my God, he's in Star Wars,
Yeah, but I mean his I wonder if we're gonna get more of him. Was it just this episode? That's it? We get like the 2 minutes? Because that's all it really was.
That was
he seems to be the head of the Path Network. He seems to be the guy, the technical guy anyway, right? Like the IT guy, I guess, who builds all of their stuff. And that's pretty much who he is. So
IT guy.
He's their IT. Yeah, he makes all the stuff. He's the one that gets everything ready. He's like, so that was a cool another character to add. But again, because of the short time, we don't get to learn much about him. So his character development is very weak.
So let me bring up something about the Path Network. And I don't want to just pile on here because I said like, that's what starts happening when you start talking about this. No, he was cool. It's the reason why this episode is like such a step down for me is for what you just said. Like they established this Path Network, and not only do we get O'Shea's character in such a small sample size, like when Reva starts talking about it too, it's like it's still so small to the point where like I'm sitting here going, okay, this episode maybe could have used 10 more minutes of more of them, because I'm a sucker for emotion. It doesn't take a lot to make me feel, but when Wade dies and the last 5 minutes of the episode are like set up like the characters. Like, don't get me wrong, like they're trying to sell it that like it's so dark and depressing when like Wade was in a pan shot and then he dies and everyone's like,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm like, I literally was like, the episode ended and like I had to rewatch the last few minutes again to get the Lola thing, because I'm not gonna lie, like I sat there to a level of frustration where I'm like, Deborah, that's not enough for me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You want me to be upset? I'm not. I'm not. R.I.P. to Wade, great sacrifice, but like if it was O'Shea's character, he got a little bit. If it was Tala, I'm really feeling it because she's fantastic. I know Chris Evans in the comments and I agree that she got out of a lot of situations this episode, but she's great. It's fine. It's one trope I'll let go is that she lived so much. But yeah, like when he died and they come back and they're also upset, I'm like, I don't know why you're up. I know why you are, because you guys clearly know each other, but like you have to build, like, for example, if Tala died in episode 3 at the end, they did enough with her in that episode to where you kind of care if she dies, right?
Right.
So for this one, it was dope to see the snow speeders. Don't get me wrong, the snow speeders are some of the best ships in Star Wars. And I firmly believe that they're maybe the best speeder in my humble opinion in terms of how dope it is. But like he dies, and like the way they set up like the other pilot, like Wade. I'm like, I don't know him. Like, I'm sorry, guys. Like,
right. And of all of them, like I could understand Tala and I forget the female's name who was driving the speeder, the other speeder. I can get them being upset because they obviously knew him for a while. But to see Obi-Wan and Leia, like,
yeah, I'm like, come on, guys.
They didn't even know this guy. I mean, I understand that. I guess they're sad. He died saving them.
Yeah.
So, human empathy kicks in at that point. But
you're right. And like Deborah's really looking at us for just to have that human empathy kicked in. And that's when, like I said, I'm a sucker for emotion, but I need a little more than that. So when it ended, I was like, it was almost distracting. I'm like, really? We're building you would think a main character of the series died. Like, this is like, it felt like after the Red Wedding. You're like, or like after Ned Stark died and the whole world's crying. I'm like, what do you, Sean? I mean, if you haven't watched Game of Thrones by now, I'm sorry. Sean Bean dies, but he dies in everything he's in, so you should know that. So, okay, now I'm done piling on certain things of the episode.
The Jedi in episode 1 or 2 that was killed and that they hung him in the. No, you didn't get that kind of response for him.
No, and they gave him like more scenes, like he's pleading with Kenobi, and I'm like, so when he died, I was like I was like, oh damn, man. But this one, I was just like, yeah, you're right. Like Obi-Wan doesn't even flinch. He sees him hung, and he's like, oh. But in this one, Wade, shout out to Wade. Also, I did see a tweet in a world like Star Wars, of all the names they could give someone, they give him Wade.
Well, yeah, I mean, we have some normal names. Obviously, Luke is a normal name. Sure. So every once in a while, they throw it in to keep it real, I guess. I don't know.
Wade just still feels like. I would have taken Wade. R.I.P. to Wade, though.
Yes. Did a good job.
Enough for Wade.
Hey,
he saved Obi-Wan Kenobi. So
there you go. You did what you had to do. So Chris brings up a good point, because I feel like this little actress has taken a lot of heat. And I agree with that in this episode. I thought she was fantastic in this one. To me, it's her best acting performance. I've said the whole series, she's just so damn adorable. I don't care. But in this one, I thought her acting was actually very, very good. Especially the eyes, when the one scene after Reaver asks her something and then you just focus on her face and you just see her eyes. I was like, oh my, I'm like, this girl's 10 years old. She
does a really good job. I think she's done a good job the whole season. She did a really good job in this episode. And I was actually and this kind of goes back to my point, like her stuff and Obi-Wan stuff continue to be so good when they let them have that time to breathe.
Yeah.
And I even like how she was kind of clever and tried to trick Reva. Like, that's so in line with Leia's character.
Right.
She's great. And the ending sequence up until, Wade's death was pretty great. But man, it's just like more of that. because episode 3 was all that. It was these interactions and then the beats, like nothing missed. But then we're going to like sneaking around and back to Leia, and Tala gets out of 2 more situations, and Reva tries to, and now Reva's like all of a sudden she's so willing to. It's the TV tropes. Like,
Yeah.
I have Leia right here and the machine's going. Nothing is gonna make me leave this room. And then when I leave the room and it's a person with, and she has the Force.
Right.
Paula is clearly almost admitting, which was a smart thing to do, but like admitting she's a double agent.
Right.
To like waste that time. Like, she knows Obi-Wan's probably there. It's just, once again, it's like the urgency.
Right.
And the choice is like, deal with the thing right now. And that brings me to my Vader point at the end that I'll get into, is like, okay, they managed to put in the exposition that like he's on his ship. So that was smart to be like, oh, he's on his ship. That's why he's not here right now. But like, for him to come back, like, he's impressed. Well, at first he's terrifying, but then he's impressed that she put the tracker in Lola. But at the same time, like, me being like a nitpicking fan now, I'm going like, but she had them here and afforded to let him go again because she was like absent-minded to not take the priority. Like, if I'm Vader, I'm like, I'm done with you. Thank you for tracking, but I'm done with you because like you're not getting it done. She's been in your grasp twice, and the guy I just tried to burn was also here.
Yeah.
And now they're all gone. And
Yeah.
I know we're gonna track him, but it's almost like Vader was awesome, but at the same time, I'm like, man, like, where is this incompetency? And I think Reva's doing a good job. I definitely think she's stepped it up, and I'm more interested now in her story than ever, because the way she's like pleading with Leia at one point, I thought the performance was actually very, very good there. So I hope she's getting the credit for it in this episode. But like the like it's like she also keeps fumbling, and that might be what they're trying to show you. But like Vader comes in, I would be like, you mean you had them both here? I'm killing all of you. Like, you guys can't do a single thing. I'll do it myself. Let's go. Like, look at how many stormtroopers are in this place and they still got away. Snow speeders.
Well,
telling me.
Well, we know stormtroopers always are just the fodder for
actually,
Star Wars. Like, they always get. They're never successful. That's
true. That's true.
That always happens with them. So, but I agree with you. Like, we saw, well, especially because what we saw last week, like when we saw this just really menacing performance and this real menacing character in Darth Vader that we really hadn't seen except for Rogue One. So we got him again here. And this week, it looked like that was going to happen. It looked like he was going to do that.
I wanted it so bad.
But you knew in the back of your mind he wasn't going to, because she's a main character in the show. So
plot armor.
Right. So like, you knew, and we have seen signs of his forgiveness, especially in Empire Strikes Back when he, they all, so we have seen that. And I think he clearly sees something in her too. So I think that's part of it as well. He's willing to give her a pass. But I agree with you. It was set up to be a much more brutal moment, and that's what you thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I'm impressed. I'm like, but man, they were here. Like, it's different. Like, it's different if she found them, but like they were there and she had Leia and left the room and she got away. It's like, why did you leave? I would be like,
because Vader was there. That's why she left. Oh no, because the Grand Inquisitor was there. He was there. That's why she left. He still clearly is the fodder for her wanting to search for Obi-Wan and stuff. And it's weird that he has that feeling, but that's another thing I noticed. I'm like, Darth Vader says nothing to him when Darth Vader clearly wants to find Obi-Wan.
Says nothing
to him, right? Like, he's completely doesn't talk to him. So there's some disconnects that are here, and I just, like I said, I just think it's because it's such a limited series that they just have to get to certain things and they're just pressed for time. So we talked about some of the lowlights. What are some of the highlights that we had from episode 3?
Definitely the cinematography. 100%. It looked great. A lot of the shaky cam, but also the lightsabers in the dark. The lightsaber stuff, I said it earlier, was very prequel-esque. It was awesome. I loved seeing him get back to Jedi form. I really did. And I know I've been crapping on some stuff in the episode, but that was worth everything, right? I thought the holding of the glass and the releasing
That,
of the
yes.
water. He did one of his whoosh whoosh twirls. It's subtle. There's a really cool shot of like Leia looking at him, and the lightsaber is so bright that it's partly on her when he's standing. That was super cool. The Leia stuff was great. And I did for some of her convenient plot armor. I'm really through 2 episodes. I really dig Tala. I'm actually at a point where like, yes, I'll be as sad as they were when Wade died if she dies at this point. Because she's really good and they're giving her some nice development that I think they're trying to quickly put in other areas with like O'Shea Jackson and those pilots. But like with Tala, you really feel that she tried to make a difference and realized it was wrong, and she is putting herself on the line every time. She doesn't have to go with Obi-Wan, and on the surface it's a suicide mission, and she still does it. From a performance wise, she turns on that like I'm in charge thing and is able to get through the first checkpoint, and so she does some really cool things, albeit convenient. But so I really dig the character, and I'm almost like really hoping she doesn't die, but like I mean, like the only guarantees you don't die coming out of this are Obi-Wan, Vader, Leia, and Luke, and like Owen and some other people, but like those main people. So like Tala's on the watch list, and I'm getting stressed.
Well, I like the actress. I like her. Like she's been in a lot of things that she used to be in that show Rome on HBO. I don't know if you ever saw it. It was on years ago.
I haven't seen it.
It was like one of their first big epic type of shows that HBO did, and
cool.
she was on that. It's obviously about the Roman Empire. That's the first time I remember seeing her. She's been in, obviously she was in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So we've seen her in everything I've ever seen her in. She's been good in. So I agree with you. She was definitely a highlight. Like you said, regardless of the convenience that they gave her, you know, she was definitely a highlight because she's just such a talented actress, and she just brings out the part. I agree with you, obviously, on Leia. I said before, this was the best performance that little girl's given in the role so far. The Obi-Wan moments, of course, that I think those are probably the highlights for me from this one. Even though, again, it was quick, right? Like when he's on the ship, he goes like this and he can barely move the communicator.
Yeah.
and then he goes and he's holding glass now, and
it was. That's why I said it was like the TV tropes.
Yep.
And it's like, it's not that it's even bad. Like that's why this is so hard. And like sometimes like something being like just decent is almost more of a problem than it just being overtly bad. Cause we just named so many good things, but then I'm like, but then they're walking through a dirty Obi-Wan is walking in giant trench coat through an entire Imperial hall, and not a soul stops and goes.
And this little bump next to him.
Alerted that there's people in here, right? And there's this little kid peeking out, and then all of a sudden Reva comes with all these stormtroopers, and it's like, oh snap, we're caught. And it's like, oh, now you're caught.
Yeah,
my brother, they should have caught you 100 feet ago. So it's just things like that like they almost like take you out, where you're like, oh, that was so good, all the lightsaber stuff. How are they walking out? What are they doing?
I know.
And then like, oh, snow speeders, Wade dies. Wait, what?
But I mean, like you said, yeah, it's ridiculous in one sense, but then it followed up with something cool. Like that's how they did this one. They're like,
this is like most of the prequels summed up in an episode of TV.
Yeah, that's fair.
It really is.
That is fair.
I mean, I'm going to give the prequels a little bit more credit, especially episodes 1 and 3, but you're right. Like every time it's like, but you know, it is Star Wars. And once again, we will eat our words. 2 guys who weren't that big on the first 2, and then 3 happens and we're going nuts last week. Now we're like, okay, it was still enjoyable. definitely step down. I'm not feeling some of this again. If 5 and 6 do deliver, it's worth it all. But this just does feel like the one that they needed, like you said, like they needed to like do certain things, and they picked this spot to be like, okay, we got to do X, Y, and Z. We have to do X, Y, and Z. It
Yep.
doesn't matter how we do it, so that 5 and 6 work.
Yeah, like that's exactly like this is like the connective tissue episode where they're just kind of like, okay, this connects, this connects, this connects, this connects. We're done, and we're moving on, and we're moving on. It's kind of like at a museum, and we're walking, and we're walking,
and
like
and we're moving on.
Yep,
we're moving on. I'll tell you what's funny though is like, so remember last week we talked about how this was rumored to be a movie at one point.
Yes.
If you shave off this episode, I did this earlier because I'm clearly a toxic Star Wars fan. If you shave off part of this episode and then put the runtimes of 1, 2, and 3 together, and you're at about an hour, you're at about 2 hours, you could trim some of that, and then like episodes 5 and 6, when you think about how long they might be, probably 50 minutes or less, this could have really been just a 2-hour, 20-minute, 2.5-hour feature film.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely
that was more like run and gun.
Yeah,
like if you really think about it, you shave off some of 1, shave off some of 2, you let 3 play out, you shave off part of 4, and then you let 5 and 6 happen, and like, but it's like just the back to tank flashbacks, and then you show some flashback, and then you just go to the final battle. You could have made a pretty tight 2-hour, 20-minute run and gun Obi Wan movie. Not that I'm saying that they should have did that or I want that instead. I'm just saying like, when an episode like this happens, and some of our thoughts on like 1 and 2, you go like, did we need all this hour? Like, did we need all these hours? But we'll see by the end. end.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure if they did a film, we wouldn't be getting a lot of these new characters that we're getting now. Like I'm sure these characters are kind of fillers in that regard, because I don't think it would be that important. Steve brings up I'm going to bring up Steve put this in there because we both thought that Qui-Gon was going to appear in this episode, and we were both clearly wrong.
So I also saw. So let me touch on, or no, you touch on it first, because I'm gonna take it in another way, like I always do. You touch on that first. What do you think is the like? Is this guy happening?
So you want me to share the rumor I shared with you earlier? That's what you're telling me. You want me to share it with everyone else?
Like you don't know the rumor and just tell me what you think might happen.
No, because now it's going to just fill my head, and I'm going to.
That's true.
All right, I'll tell everybody. I told Nikko this before, and there's a rumor going around in circles that in the next episode, or in one of the next 2, I'm not sure which one, but Obi-Wan actually goes to Dagobah and meets with Yoda, and that's where Yoda teaches him how to connect with Qui-Gon, and then we see Qui-Gon. Like, that's a rumor I've heard. Now, I don't know how much I believe it. It seems way too convenient, but it would connect the dots from Revenge of the Sith, right? Like it
connects the dots. Here's why that rumor is both dangerous, but also very possible. Mandalorian season 2 and the Book of Boba Fett episode 6 showed you anything can show up and anyone can show up whenever. We thought Luke was enough, and then we get Luke, Ahsoka, Grogu, the payoff. So like, it's not that crazy. Even if someone just made that up, I would say that's not a crazy thought. They've also, in episodes 1, 2, and 3, or maybe in 1 and 3, for sure 1 and 3, he does try to call the Qui-Gon. Those breadcrumbs are there. Like you said, the breadcrumbs at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Right.
It makes sense. Also, in a couple of these Disney Plus shows, they do use episode 5 as like the flashback motivational thing. Just happened with Moon Knight. We had the whole payoff with Steven's childhood. Go back to WandaVision. It showed the whole journey. Those might be the only 2. I mean, Book of Boba Fett was doing it the whole series. So I can see part of next week being that 100%, especially Boba Fett taking time for Mando to fly around and everything. It's possible. The only thing I'm cautious about is that and I saw someone say this today. There's a lot of rumors going around about season 2.
Yeah.
And my fear is that they wrote this series instead of going, and listen, I said this last week and I'll say it again. I'm not a writer. I'm not a director. I'm not a producer on these things, right? Even as much as I want to be and think I will be good at it. I digress. I hope they didn't write it and gave it an ending where it's like, we can do more. I hope it has a way they went about it. And what I'm about to say won't make sense, where there's a difference between we ended it and we could pick it back up, but we can leave it. We have like an option. We left that much there, or we ended this in a way where like we really could and probably will, hoping it does well. We'll just keep going, because I can see some of these things not happening anymore. Because tell me how you feel, because we have to address, there's a big elephant in the room that I think of everything, every criticism that you and I have brought up in the last 2 weeks, every criticism I brought up today, and I know I'm talking a lot, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Every criticism I brought up today, any Star Wars fan can tell me I'm wrong and I'm being crazy. All right. Fair. There's one thing I think if you're a Star Wars fan and you're mad at this, you should have every right to be mad at this. This show, you know the phrase like, oh, like nothing's promised, or that's not what they told you it was going to be. They really always set this up as the rematch of the ages. And Hayden Christensen was right there for all of the marketing, all of the press, the story, and Vanity Fair, it's his redemption, his comeback. I really thought, like Boba Fett, they were going to work a lot more flashbacks in to build stakes between them. I personally don't believe he's always behind the Vader thing. I personally don't believe he's always in it, because we know that Pascal is not, and
Stuntman,
Camara weren't always in the masks. So now realizing there's probably only one or maybe two, and I know we got him in the robe, it was pretty much confirmed he was the far shot. It does feel weird that 4 episodes in, he is nowhere to be found. He is supposedly just behind the mask and prosthetic. And as much as I love the icon himself, it is James Earl Jones' voice AI'd over him. Even they say he's giving lines, he's in the suit giving lines, but it's a different voice.
Right.
It does feel weird. Like, if he's not in a couple substantial flashback scenes as Hayden Christensen, I think a lot of people are going to be like, well, this is a really weird redemption for him because he really didn't do anything. That's me being like a hard ass about it, because it was marketed as we're doing justice for Hayden Christensen.
Yeah.
And him being buried is way different. It doesn't hit the same. Him being buried and behind a mask and prosthetic is not the same. It's not the same.
Oh, no, I agree. And as much as I'm not a fan of his as an actor, I still think we're still going to see him in these last 2 episodes. I do. I think we're going to get him in it, because you're right. It would make zero sense for them to have him do press tours and all this other stuff where he's clearly not in costume.
Yeah.
And they're talking all this stuff like, oh, it was so great to get him back. We're going to show you how great he is and all this other stuff, and not to see him. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm sure
4, right?
Yeah. I'm sure in these last 2 episodes, we're going to get flashback scenes with Anakin and him as Anakin. Who knows? Maybe in some weird kind of Force ghost way, the Anakin personality comes out. Like, I don't know. Who knows, right? Like,
it definitely, and I'm not saying, like, I think you said it perfectly. There's still a massive opportunity to negate everything I just said in 5 and 6, or maybe even a moment so good in the last one, right? That's a few minutes. It just hits so hard, but it with the way they talked about it, you would have thought it was more like Book of Boba Fett, where it's a lot of Obi Wan at a couple times when he's healing or when he's in thought, reflecting on a moment between them to really build the stakes. You know what I
right.
mean? Like that's really what I thought after episode 3. I believe. And with the way the episode started with them in the tanks, I'm like, oh, we're now it's just going to be all of them. It's going to be like, wow, we'll sprinkle in Reva and Leia, but they're really setting up for the whole, round 2, and now it's more personal than ever because now they're both scarred. And maybe that's more for the last 2 now that Vader's going to be chasing them, or so you think, but it is just, it's okay to say it's a little weird with as much as they pumped Christensen that he ain't around through 4. Even, well, he was in one shot that was like, you could see him back there,
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I agree with you. He's not my favorite actor. I didn't love his portrayal of
I
Anakin.
always forget that. It's Rick that agrees with me, right? That
Yes,
he
I
won't
would.
agree with me on this episode, but he'll agree with me that we love Hayden. Shouts to Rick Shrew. Good guy.
I will. I would have gone with a myriad of other actors who were rumored at the time. I wish DiCaprio would have taken it, even though I don't know how that would have worked out.
See,
Looking
I don't
back,
know this. So it was DiCaprio was rumored,
yeah, he
or
was
he
one
was
of the. He was apparently the role was his, but he declined it because he wanted to do. I forget what movie he did, which was probably a better choice in the end.
he was almost Anakin and Spidey, huh?
So yeah.
He was almost
So
everyone. Wow.
so yeah, but I agree with you. I do hope he gets, because he seems like a very nice guy. So
Yeah.
I want him to get his moment if he's going to have a moment. And I'm hoping, like you said, it's through 4 episodes. We haven't seen it yet, but we just went through how quick this one was and how they were going through it because they had to get from A to B. So maybe now the last 2 is really going to focus on their relationship, that
I'm
whole thing.
really hoping so.
Leia is safe, right? Like, she's safe now, so she's wherever they're going, even
Yeah,
though they're chasing her. But
she should be good, right? Like,
right,
you should be. I mean, I hate to see her leave because she's so good, but I think she's finally like, yeah, we've got her.
yeah. So I think that part of the arc will probably be finished, and then they're going to focus the last 2, which would make the most sense on the Vader Obi-Wan. I guess Reva mixed in too because she's obviously involved
Yeah,
somehow. But who knows what happens to her? Maybe she gets. A lot of people think she's going to end up saving someone somehow because she's going to turn.
that's what I think still.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that, and I'm like, if they do that, I get it, but I'll be kind of upset.
It's see, and just validate it, or tell me if I'm crazy, but just validate this for me. Like, I think like some of the criticisms of praise last week were, oh, you guys only like 3 because Vader was in it, right? Am I wrong to be a little bit? Yeah, because that's really what the show is marketed as. And I know he can't be in every episode, but he's in episode 3 full force. And then I know he's too intimidating to always have on the screen, but then you pull him for most of 4 again. And
Yeah,
it's like, then like, yeah, and when you market the 2 guys and you're really only seeing one the whole time, I know it's Obi Wan Kenobi, but when you got Reva and Leia, as great as they are, and Tala and expanding the pathway and everything, it's like, I know they're trying to world build,
right.
but the beauty of 3 was how tight it was, and how none of those other tropes happened because it was so the direction. I'm going to keep saying that the direction by Deborah Chow in episode 3 is so pristine in such a straight line that it just works so well. And in this one, once again, it's like the focus lens starts moving around again, and then we come
Yeah.
back here for a little bit, and then we come back here for a little bit, and it's like, yeah, is just
Yeah, there's a lot of payoffs, right? They're
yeah,
building up for a lot of payoffs in this series where we didn't think that in the beginning. Like most of us thought,
yeah,
okay, the payoff is going to be we're going to see them duel again somehow.
yes,
And they build in all these other characters, which again I love because I like when they expand this time period that we don't really have much about. So we don't have a lot that goes on in this period. So it's great that they have that. But yeah, I agree that this week was a letdown. It was definitely one of those episodes, like I said, that I always say there's always like this throwaway episode in a season of a show. That's what this felt like. Even though again, I enjoyed it. I thought it was very, like I said, it was very Star Wars to me.
yeah,
It had all the things I loved from when as a child. Everything I love about what makes Star Wars great was in this episode. But it's just a lot. They're serving a lot of masters right now. Like that's what they're doing.
absolutely. And even like and listen, I don't know what the budget was, but even going back to like the characters from the pathway, like to even take a couple more minutes for Wade and the other pirate to be like pilot for Wade and the other pilot to even be like, because this would have served the story so much better is if like even O'Shea Jackson was like, wait, you're Obi Wan Kenobi. You like, you know what I mean? Like that makes Wade's and them saving him so much more is like, oh, why are you going to go back to that? Like, who is this little girl? And he's like, well, trust me, she's everything. Like,
Well, that's what he says. She's very important. Like
yes.
she's
And
too
like,
important. Yeah.
and like just even more and more like for them to that also like you said it does keep doing the world building, but it also makes the characters have so much more weight for the Obi-Wan story than just justice for Wade, because Wade feels like this plot device to make you feel something at the end because they
Right.
want you to, but
Right.
if you gave him even a second with Obi-Wan, it's like, well, then it holds so much more weight. And then Obi-Wan said, he's like, oh, that kid came to save me and I was cold to him earlier. You know, it's just it feels like once again they had to just, all right, guys, 4. Oh, okay, guys, episode 4. Okay, let's get this one out of the way. Let's get to 5. Roll cameras.
Yeah.
Wait. So, so Deborah, you want Tala in the room full of Imperial officers to go beat up one behind a see-through vent of monitors and then just come back and sit and keep talking into her hand? Yeah. Don't you think people will shut up, keep rolling? Like it's like, you know what I mean? We're
You're
doing
right.
the trench coat trick. I said, shut up, Johnson, keep rolling.
Yes. I mean, everything you're saying is 100. I agree 100%. Like this episode did feel like that. And even when you text me and you said I have thoughts, I kind of knew exactly what they were going to be. Because I had the same thoughts, really. I was just, like I said, it was fun. It was more fun than substantial. Like that's the quickest way I can explain it is that this episode was much more of a fun thing for me to watch than to say, okay, wow, I'm blown away, or I really felt that they're really expanding the story here. Like I didn't feel that, which is kind of sad because, like you said, from last week you had this high, and you're right, it was so focused and just so, bam, this is where we're going, and they get there, and it's just this great moment. But by the way it ended, you kind of knew like they had to save Leia again. So you knew that was coming. I guess I thought it might be more intertwined with what happens.
So I thought it would be a little bit more intertwined. I agree. I thought even though it was inevitable we had to save Leia, I just thought it would be a little bit more focused again and like worked in all these intersecting paths. There's the White Claw again. Yeah. Are you not a White Claw fan?
It's his generation, Steve. That they drink White Claws. That's what they do. It's a thing. I don't get it. I'm not a fan, but drink.
Listen, let me tell you about White Claws, which is going to sponsor SOG tonight. This is free sponsorship right here.
Yo, if we can, I don't care. I'll drink a case of White Claw if they will sponsor my show.
And not only is this free marketing, it's me actually trying to convince a non-buyer to be a buyer. White Claw. So what I'm doing right now, it should be paid. Okay, these things started sweeping the nation. 2-3 summers ago, prior to COVID. Listen, they're just so nice to just sit here and nurse and sip on. without immense pressure or effect.
Commercial. Here we go. Commercial.
Why would you drink a can of Sprite when you could have a 5% 100-calorie gluten-free black cherry White Claw hard seltzer when you're talking to your pals about Star Wars?
Because Sprite tastes better. But anyway.
Get yours today.
All right. So there were a couple other things. There's something else in this episode that happened that was very cool and obviously steeped in Star Wars lore. We've never seen it before, but it was kind of shocking. I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was weird that this is where they had it, but I'm talking about the Jedi Tomb.
Yes.
That when I saw that, when he got down there, they're like, he's like, oh, I think I know why they're like here, like what's going on here, and she's like, what? She's like, he's like, it's a tomb. I was like, holy crap. Wow. So in my head starts spinning. I'm like, are we gonna see like Qui-Gon's body? Or are we gonna see like all these other Jedi that died from obviously Order 66 and with like Kit Fisto and
dude, you just read my mind. I was gonna say Kit Fisto. like
Deepa Balaba, whatever her name is.
See, this was cool. It don't get me wrong, it was cool, it was intense, and I felt. But once again, and I hate that I keep saying, but like you said, it did make you play the game of who am I gonna see? And then you really didn't see anyone, and it was like, once again, maybe put in one like a Kit Fisto or something, right? Because every time he went up to one, I'm like, okay, wait, Quinlan got name dropped. It would be very appropriate to show him if he was in here, right? My man Kit Fisto put up a good fight with Tin and Kolar at the fifth confrontation. Well, no, he did. He got like 2 chops, and whereas Tin and Kolar just went down like absolute chumps. Jedi Masters went down like absolute chumps.
That scene bothers me so much, but we're not talking about that. So go ahead.
It's so painfully awkward and just so poorly executed. At least Kit Fisto, I always say, at least my man Kit Fisto gets 2 hacks in before he gets pieced. Before he gets the 1-2 piece from the Emperor and he's done. But yeah, no, it was cool. It's gnarly that that's what Vader's doing or what the Inquisitors are doing. It is very interesting and how they're like kind of still alive. It's creepy, or like preserved or drained of blood. I'm not sure. To see the youngling in there did hit like really unfortunately hard. I was like, ooh. So that was cool, but I did play, and this is kind of the curse of, Mandalorian, is then you start playing the curse of like, oh, who are we going to see in this? And then it ends and they're like, oh, it's just a Jedi too.
Well, the only one that people who know the Clone Wars would have known was the first one we see. It's Tara Sanuba. She was the one. She was Ahsoka's, I forget, but she was Ahsoka's like kind of mentor, and she helped her get her lightsaber back in the show. So like it was cool to see that they did that, but again, that's a deep dive for people who watch the Clone
she's even
Wars.
one that I forgot. Like I didn't see. I was seeing on Twitter today, and I'm like, oh yeah. And then like that's a deep one. Massive respect to them for putting a deep one like that. But that's a deep one.
And then even the youngling with the helmet, like they show the youngling with the helmet, and I'm like, that's like no decay there. That is just a normal kid.
Yeah, that's just...
And not that I want to see a little kid decaying body, but once her name is decayed, like you can barely tell it's just her skeleton, and the kid is just chilling, like floating.
Kid's just there, man.
So yes, but I like that they gave this planet and the Inquisitors motive a little bit depth.
Yeah,
by showing that they put that, like after they interrogate them or when they just kill them, they put them in this tomb.
Yeah,
and I don't know, but the thing is, I'm thinking, like, what are they keeping them for? Are they just showpieces? Like
trophies?
Like what is the end game with the Jedi tomb? But it was something that I thought was cool because it's, again, this is the one thing in the episode that I was like, oh wow, they really threw something in there that I totally didn't expect. So yeah, that's a good point. Maybe they're like, it's like a slow death. I don't know.
Oh,
I have no idea.
I like it.
Yeah,
it was cool though. No, it was definitely, like you said, I give him credit. It was something where like I'm like, what is this? This is wild. Did I play the cameo game a little bit? But Hav, my man.
What's up, Hav? Thanks for checking us out.
So it was cool, but I was like, but then I played the cameo game, and then I'm like, oh, that was cool for the few minutes. Okay, let's move on and go save Leia. Bye bye.
Yeah, I was hoping we'd see someone, like I said, with a little more.
I mean, it could have been. I hate to be, like I said, a spoiled fan, but admittedly, the other day on Twitter, I just said I'm unapologetically a spoiled fan. It's fine. It's fine. It's cool as long as you admit it. As Bo Burnham says, as long as you admit it, it's fine. But then he jokes and says that self-awareness doesn't absolve you from anything.
Exactly.
It could have been gnarly, though. With it could have just been boom, 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 boom. It could have been like Kid Fisto, Quinlan, and then we could have just been going down the line, and then you're like, holy, and it ends. But
right, it would have had more of an impact.
It would have had a little bit more if we knew, and even if Kenobi, once again, it's the motivation for Obi-Wan more with the pathway people. He sees some Jedi he fought with, Clone Wars and stuff, and then it's like, my gosh, when I was away, this all happened. It's weird. There's these opportunities that are inconsistent.
I abandoned them.
Right. Throughout the 4 episodes, we see spurts of how much he means to people, and they know who he is, and you see him react. And I'm like, and then they pick these spots where I guess the scene still holds weight. He's seeing all these Jedi dead, but for us, it's more convincing when we know he's seeing someone he really knows. So it was still cool, though. I don't know what they're trapped in. It reminded me of the amber from Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mosquitoes.
Yeah, or the whatever in the Matrix. Have you seen the Matrix yet? No. I forget. No? Okay, in the Matrix, the bodies are in these little eggs, and it's this orange stuff that's around them. It kind of looks looks like amniotic fluid, I guess.
Oh, that's cool.
Something like that.
Have to watch those.
Yeah.
Did you like the I forget because people fought over it. Did you like the new one?
I liked some of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked some of it. I thought part of me thinks that they just waited too long.
Sure.
But I liked a lot of the Neo stuff that was there. I like how they kind of brought back a lot of the old, obviously not characters, but besides Trinity, but a lot of the old Matrix common themes, I guess.
Sure.
But overall, I thought it was unnecessary, I guess. That's the best way I could put it. So, right. Sorry for that little Matrix talk, guys, but Nikko asked, so I'll answer.
No Matrix.
I have this little here. I've got a bad feeling about this, which obviously is a famous Star Wars line. It's said in every film. And I put it here because we've kind of touched on some of this in our discussion, but how the show is going to go from here. We did this last week, and I guess this is going to be a common theme, obviously, until the final episode. So now that we're here, we kind of talked about what we could happen, but is there anything that you think might happen that will make you say, wow, they really dropped the ball?
2 things. If they do not, and I am going to say at this point, if they don't give some sort of Christensen, if it's not substantial enough, I think it's a ball drop because of the way they marketed it, because of the way people are expecting it now. It's because it did feel like it was promised. And the other one is if they run into the common Disney Plus problem right now, which is the problem for most TV shows, but the Disney Plus era right now is really known for they really spend so much time building, and then in the finale there's way too much they try to do too fast, and where some of it falls flat. We still have the 5th one to really flesh out, which is in our favor, but with the way 4 went, I got a bad feeling about the bloatedness of 5 and 6, primarily 6. And I'm worried that they, like I said earlier, they did write it to where they were almost really thinking about a season 2 instead of focusing on really letting it end in a way where it could stand on its own, which is not the Disney way, I know. So I'm leaning towards the former, which scares me. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was going to bring up too. You said it so nicely that I'm worried that they're going to leave something open ended.
Yeah.
When you get to the episode 6, maybe not pointing towards another season, but like you said, with the ability to make another one, which they always had planned. That's my biggest thing. And the other thing, because of this episode was I don't want to say such a letdown. It was just a letdown. I'm worried that the last 2 are going to be letdowns now. Like, it is a fair thing.
Think about it. I'm so like, they said there's more. The only thing they said, I agree 100%, Javi. I'm actually hoping 4 was as short as it was so that the last 2 could be maximized. Because man, if 5 is a letdown, you're gonna see me pressing the danger button next week. And I'm gonna be like, I'm really getting nervous here. They did say you will see multiple showdowns. So that's all I'm holding on to. Like, that's what, like, they said that. It's all I'm holding on to right now. If they deliver like the way they did for 3, I mean, the 5 and 6 can be incredible. And then I'll look back on the series as a whole and be really thankful for it and say, yeah, it had its sloppy prequel moments, right? But then it really hit, like in Revenge of the Sith. I truly think that last act in Revenge of the Sith hits so freaking hard. It makes up for the whole trilogy, in my humble opinion. So we'll see. Maybe not all of Attack of the Clones. It's still pretty brutal, but, but you know.
Oh yeah, let's not talk about that movie. It's, like I said last week, it's the one Star Wars movie that I'll fast forward through parts because I just can't bear to watch them. So
it's that one's tough.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I still watch it, but I'm much quicker to fast forward through parts I know are coming and that I hate.
That is a tough one. Phantom Menace has aged incredibly for me. Like, it's still really rough in places, but there's pretty good story told in it. And once again, like, that last act is electric, man.
To me, that movie is a kid's, like, that one is a genuine children's movie. They're all technically children's movies.
It is a really big children's movie.
That one is 100% a kid's movie.
Yeah.
Outside of Darth Maul, the rest of it
is a kid's movie, especially the 25-minute pod race.
Yeah, which again, I thought at the time when that movie came out and I saw it, I'm like, oh wow, this is pretty cool. Like, the pod race was cool. But you know, there are parts of that movie when I first saw it. Obviously, I was just happy to see Star Wars again.
Sure.
But when I first saw it, I was just kind of like, like, yeah. So, you know, I'm going to bring this up because a lot of people don't like the Yoda lightsaber stuff.
I love this.
Right. And that's one of the things of the movie that is a redeeming quality for it for me.
It makes the entire film. Yeah. Like, it saves the entire movie from being a colossal dumpster fire. Yes. I still remember seeing that in theaters, not knowing that was going to happen when I was like 7 or whatever. And it still blows my mind to this day. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I still think it's the coolest thing in the world. I don't know why people would hate on that, because, like, come on, like, you're telling me you don't watch the original trilogy and then, like, really want to see Yoda fight? Like, aren't you intrigued? Yeah, I was intrigued on how that little guy fought. Come on, man. I wanted him to have a lightsaber. I wanted him to take on Dooku and body him.
Yeah, that got so. I'll never forget when he pulls the lightsaber, just for the Force, pulls the lightsaber from his cloak. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget how crazy the theater went when that happened. Like, everyone was just like, "Oh my god!"
That's what my dad and my aunt were at that one. I was still too young. The first, like, midnight show I went to was Revenge of the Sith, so I heard all the pops in that one. But man, I would pay money to go back and be like my age now to see the Yoda thing happen.
Okay, I'm gonna address this. I agree that some of the stuff in Phantom Menace is heavy from that regard, but the dialogue, the fart stuff with the animals, Jar Jar.
Yeah, and like kids' movies sometimes have plot that, like, they don't need to understand it. Like, I didn't understand that plot point till I rewatched it probably, like, in my college years. 'Cause, like, I didn't need to. I just needed to know that Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon had to do all this stuff, and then they found Anakin, who would eventually be Vader, and they do the race, and then they fight Darth Maul. Like that, it's you can follow it, in my opinion. Like you could follow that as a kid very easily. You're
Right.
just watching it for action at that point, and they do deliver that throughout the film, my opinion.
Yes. Chris brings up a good point because I actually said the same thing after in Attack of the Clones when he picks up the cane again, the walking stick. I'm like, oh, you
Yeah.
don't even need it.
Yeah, he's a liar. He just jumped all around and vroom, vroom, vroom.
So yeah, so we're going a little back in time talking about prequels, but this is obviously the show is right after that. So um it's very I like talking to prequels even though people think I hate them because I always pick on Attack of the Clones, but I don't hate them. I like all Star Wars movies in some form or fashion.
The prequels have aged pretty well. They have. I mean, Clones not really, but the other two, they really have. I
Yeah.
really think so.
Let's see what it.
Someone around got to. Oh no, that's terrible.
Oh man.
That's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, Steve, this is a good point as well. Who's Jar Jar? Yeah, we all kind of forget. It's funny though when they first showed that Tira Sinube today in the tube, I thought it was Jar Jar.
Did you? Oh, that's hilarious.
I was like, it's Jar Jar. I'm like, wait, Jar Jar? No, Jar Jar wasn't a Jedi.
Like, oh, wait, Jar Jar. Wait, why would they put him in here? Hey.
Yeah, I was like, I thought it might have just been like a joke thing, like, oh, let's throw something funny in for the fans, because that would have been hysterical.
Hysterical.
But yeah, it was the first thing I saw.
That's hilarious.
All right, so we have 2 more episodes left. We have episode 5 and episode 6, and sadly for me, because as much as mixed, definitely this show has been a mixed bag for me. It has been cool to see Ewan McGregor as Obi Wan Kenobi again. It has been cool to see Princess Leia as a child. You know, that stuff to me has been amazing. It's something I never thought I needed to see, but now that I have, I'm glad that I have.
You're just glad to experience it, and I'm with you because I'm dangerously close to saying that the show as a whole through 4 I will say I'm dangerously close to agreeing it's a mixed bag for me, but it's one of those like happy I experienced it with, like happy that I'm experiencing it with you and talking about it. It's our first Star Wars thing we're talking about, and like I'm a big Boba Fett guy.
Yes.
Do I look back on that show and does it age worse by the day? Yeah, but there was some cool stuff in it with him too. I mean, coming out of Sarlacc, him fighting with Mando, I thought was awesome side by side. Like there are things I'm definitely thankful I've seen and experienced. I might not rush to go back, and it might not make it on my best rankings of all time, but like you said it perfectly, Eric, to see Ewan back and him doing such a good job with it too. It's not like he's phoning it in. Like he's doing probably some of his best acting in the role.
He doesn't age
ever, and he doesn't age. So like, wow, it's cool to really see him do his thing. It really is.
Yeah, again, it was cool to see Joel Edgerton back. Like a lot of the things that that the prequels gave us, it was just cool to see them get paid off somewhat in this series so far. And yeah, we have 2 more episodes to see what else they're going to give us. And I said, just like I said after 2, I am cautiously optimistic now at going into episodes 5 and 6, because these are as of now, these are the last 2 times we're going to get to see these characters in live action, as far as we know. I'm assuming I think we just got word we're going to see Darth Vader and Ahsoka at some point, so we'll see.
Yeah, and yeah, that would be fitting. So I'm also worried like that's more of the actual like big resurgence for Christensen, because the Ahsoka show is post Return of the Jedi, and at the end in the remastered original trilogy, it's Hayden Christensen's Anakin Force Ghost at the end. So I imagine if Ahsoka in his death is able to make peace with him, like through Luke, I think what can be cool is if you find out Luke helped her figure out how to talk to him. Right. And that they could finally have their closure, and she could, give him some peace about ultimately doing the right thing at the end of the day. It could be really powerful. But Yeah, I do. I just want to see one live action Clone Wars scene between the two guys, man. That show is so iconic for Star Wars fans.
Yeah, I
Like, I
agree.
just want to see just a shot, a picture, right?
Yeah,
An
I
image in Obi-Wan's mind, even if it's still art of them, just like I would be like, oh, that's what it looks like.
no, I think we're gonna get something like that because, like we mentioned before, now Obi-Wan, like I said, he's kind of going back from Ben. He's kind of converting now back to being the Jedi, Obi Wan Kenobi,
Yeah.
and he's kind of on that path back. This episode really did. That's the one thing I'll say. This episode did pretty well. They kind of gave you okay. He's going back to the hero we all remember him.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think, and we've already gotten hints of him, glimpses of like seeing Anakin and thinking back to certain things, especially once he found that he was still alive. Like a lot of that started playing in his mind again. So it would be. I think we're going to see maybe some moments between the two that, like, maybe I don't want to say intimate, but yeah, I guess intimate moments the two might have had. During the Clone Wars time, where it wasn't them fighting, they were just kind of being brothers, or they're just kind of being, friends, really best friends who kind of just learned to do, who had been through all of this stuff together, and they just have these moments where they kind of just sit back and think, or sit back and think about what everything's going on around them and how far they've come. I can totally see that, some kind of buddy cop moment stuff, So I can totally see that, and I hope we get it. And again, like you said, because they marketed Hayden Christensen being kind of himself, not in a suit, it would make sense that we get something like that moving forward. So I'm not going to take any stabs at what I think is going to happen.
I'm not either, because you know what? It's better for us not to.
Yeah. So let's just play this one out. Let's continue to just let them give us the show. I can't. It's weird. Every time an episode ends, I'm like, okay, I want the end of now. Like I want the rest of it. I want the last two episodes to happen. Especially nowadays where everything kind of is released right away and you get to watch it all at once, like Stranger Things and shows like that.
Yeah.
Disney Plus with the Star Wars shows and obviously with the Marvel shows, they've been doing it in a traditional manner, which is good. And
have you watched Miss Marvel yet?
I know it. The first one came out. I didn't even know.
It came out today with Kenobi.
Okay. No, I haven't watched it yet, so I'm gonna have to give that.
I haven't either, but I
watch
because people are really liking it. So
yeah,
maybe it'll be better than this episode.
Well, I'm hopeful for that show. I think everything that goes with that show, I'm really happy about. So
the actress has been very cool on the press. Like she not only like knows her Marvel stuff, she has like some like swag. I'm like, all right, welcome to the MCU. I love the big personalities when it comes to these characters. I'm more down for when the actor like unapologetically loves the character and the comics and stuff. It comes off. Whereas like we love Downey and stuff, but like he would do interviews. He's like, yeah, we're doing that Iron Man movie. Yeah. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like he's just chilling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
All right. So anything else? Any closing remarks?
Hopefully next week we could say this is where the fun begins.
Yeah, we haven't gotten really to say that yet. So hopefully we get to say that. Yeah, I'm kind of there with you. I hope that this was just a bump in the road and next week will. And again, I did have fun with it. It's not that I didn't like it.
Yeah, no,
I did. I hate saying that because people automatically think, oh, you hate it. They just jump on you. No, not at all. I did not hate it at all. It's just after last week, it was really, really, it was a letdown. It was definitely a letdown. All right, guys. So Nikko, tell everyone where they can find you.
You can follow me on Nikko Caruso, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, TikTok. I do some movie reviews there. You can follow the Vigilante 1939 podcast at Vigilante 1939 on Twitter. That I do with my pops and Zed. You know him, Zeddy. You know him. You love him, both. And the Italian Spider-Man Coalition at Italians for Spidey, which I do with my pops and Mr. Peter Vera, co-host of Straight Outta Gotham as well. I have to point to Eric here. And then Right Between the Eyes podcast, RBTE, a KISS podcast I also do with my dad and drummer Rob Myers from Everybody Loves the Drake podcast. We're all talking about KISS, the rock band, 3 generations of fans. But no, I'm very interactive on Twitter and socials. Come talk to me. As Eric said earlier, I'm all over the place, both socially, media, and mentally as well. So come find out where I am tomorrow, and so on and so on.
Yeah, Nico's always willing to get into some stuff. So just if you can find him,
sometimes on purpose, sometimes on not.
always Nico's always there, always ready. I'm kidding.
I'm always locked and loaded, brother.
Oh yeah, it's always good. It's always good stuff. I always have fun interacting with you.
Always.
Normally with me on Twitter, I'm trolling people. So
that's true.
That's just what I do. So, and as soon as everyone knows that, they get it. If you don't know it at first, they get mad.
You gotta get it.
You get it. So as you guys see, as you know, you can see down there, right there at Finally33 on Twitter, and at straight_O_G for the Straight Outta Gotham podcast. We have our Facebook stuff too, so go check out the Straight Outta Gotham Facebook page and the Straight Outta Gotham Facebook group. Pete and I are discussing about doing other things coming up with the summer. We have a couple of ideas we're kicking around this summer to do some live video stuff. I'm not going to tell you guys what that is, but it was kind of one of the things we wanted to do when we started the show. And because of COVID, we really couldn't. So now we're going to try and get to do stuff actually in New York City, in and around New York City. We're talking about doing things like that. So should be a lot of fun. That's cool. That's the other part of the Gotham that the Straight Outta Gotham stands for is obviously New York City. So check out for that. I want to thank everyone in the comics group, Steve, Chris, Javi.
Also, yes, shout out to Spider-Man Council on the comic bin. And shout out to White Claw, the sponsor of SOG tonight.
Everyone who supports and follows this show, I really, really appreciate it. We both really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
Like Nico we say all the time, we've been wanting to talk Star Wars for a while. So this has been a culmination of that and us just because we both love Star Wars so much. I don't always agree, but we love it so much. So again, thank you all for watching. And we will see you next week when we discuss episode 5 of Obi Wan Kenobi.